My daughter Mary is almost 4 and my son Arthur just turned 1. It was when Mary was about 6 months old that I really started thinking more about the type of state that she was going to grow up in. That's really when things came into focus for me. I ran for office, and one of the things that people asked me when I was out knocking on doors in my legislative campaign was, what are your plans in your first year in the legislature? I told them my plan is to form the relationships that will be the foundation for the rest of my service. And that's what I did. Those relationships are what drive really good policy because we have an understanding of each other and are more willing to find solutions together. One of the committees I serve in the legislature is the State Affairs Committee. And that's where we oversee all of the functions and policy of the Secretary of State's office. My first year, I had proposed a piece of legislation that would make it easier and more convenient for people to vote early, which is something that folks in Idaho really like to do. And I was chatting with one of my colleagues about it, and his reaction was, why would we want to do that? Why would we want to make it easier for people to vote? It was that conversation that really piqued my interest in what was going on around the country. It came to my attention that there are a lot of states who are limiting people's ability to vote early, and I just didn't want that to happen in Idaho. After 40 years of having nonpartisan, ethical leadership in the Secretary of State's office, we have a decision to make. Do we allow this position and the Secretary of State's office to become partisan and a place where special interests play a big role, or do we keep it nonpartisan and ensure that everyone is held to the same ethical standard? I really see it as a public trust in the Secretary of State's office. We're working for the public, making sure that people's voices are heard at the polls. Secretary of State is one of 5 people who serves on the land board. When Idaho was granted statehood, we were also granted some state endowment lands by the federal government. The money that we earn on endowment lands go to fund the various beneficiaries, including K-12 education, which is the largest. The land board should be focused on maximizing the return to the endowment, and they should not be focused on politics. They should really be focused on making sure that the land holdings that we have benefit our public schools. The Secretary of State should be nonpartisan. There isn't room for partisanship in the Secretary of State's office. Their job is to ensure that all people are treated fairly, and that both sides of an issue are treated fairly, that all candidates are treated fairly and are held to the same level of accountability. I'm running for Secretary of State to preserve our legacy of fair and honest elections, invest in our public schools, and protect our public lands for all Idahoans.